My name is Sean Starry. I'm a filmmaker and a citizen journalist. This film you're about to watch was taken during February 26, 2024, all the way up until March 13th, 2024. This film that you're about to see is not only an awareness, but a discovery about the Panhandle Fire, how it has affected so many people, and why. To better explain this film, I've included actual footages during the time of the Panhandle Fire, as well as footages that myself and my colleagues have recorded, as well as many others who have donated their videos, or whether they were found on the internet under the Fair Use Act, as well as the drone footages that were donated or paid for. Again, just a fair warning, some of these images I'm about to show you are extremely disturbing.
Home is behind the wall of the hay.
I just got into Amarillo County here. Driving up to Fridge, Texas. And from there, we're going to Amarillo, and then to a town called Colson or Holton. That's kind of the final destination point. I'll be dropping off some more stuff for the ranchers and their families, and then going to go interview, hopefully, the ranchers and their families. I kind of understand why they don't want to be interviewed right now. They're kind of going through the shock of the loss.
I have somebody running up on Wednesday. I'm going to give them your information, so they'll have another load coming from South Texas, so I'm going to hook y'all up. Okay. Okay, all right.
City clerk, and go tell that city clerk that you want to put something on the record and see what they say. If anything, now you want to get it, if anything, stamped with the city clerk stamp, or just find out, what they do and what they say.
is that, dude?
The grass fire that is here on 287 between Amarillo and Dumas, and this is a live feed here of that grass fire 287. We got multiple hotspots. It looks like over here. That smoke that was right back off over there was not there a second ago as we were coming up this direction. Again, this is the fire on 287 north of Amarillo. This is going to be on the left-hand side of the road. So I was watching the car. He was texting the driver. He was coming right towards the back of my vehicle. This is going to be on the west side of the road if you're traveling north, or any direction, actually. My bad. It's going to be west side of the road, 287. Again, there was a fire unit. He's actually parked right over there, going in. Again, this is 287 between Amarillo and the Canadian River. It is just south of the Canadian River, from what we can tell and see at this time. Heavy smoke. It's not really bad crossing the highway at this time, but just use caution if you're having to travel in this area. Multiple first responders are on scene of this fire. So what are we doing here? Hi. There you go.
Huh?
So one of the things that, I was down in Texas and working with a lot of wonderful people. We were delivering supplies. We were raising money, buying supplies, and delivering supplies over the period of the next 3 or 4 days. But the one thing that's back in my mind since I've come back from Texas and investigating this fire was what similarities that spells out about this fire. Well, one of the things that we've noticed is that there were a lot of areas that were completely untouched. Being the fact that they were so close to certain buildings or close to certain trees, different things that we were looking at these anomalies, it just didn't add up. And throughout the constant, taking pictures and videos and things like this and doing a lot of measuring, and nothing was just adding up. And so this kind of brought me to somewhat of a red flag that has gone off in my head was about the situation that's happened in Maui, the situation that's happened in California. And so we wanted to explore this a little bit more. And with a lot of due diligence and research, we come to learn that there were a few things that came into play. And so we go back to taking a look at what has happened in Maui, and we found that there's striking similarities to the fire that was in Panhandle, Texas, comparing that with the notes of Maui, comparing it to notes with California, also in Chile, West Virginia, and all the fires that have been kind of raging on. We've noticed that there was a striking similarity. And so one of the things that we have discovered was 2 or 3 months prior to all this, the fires themselves in those locations, there was a published report of chemtrail spraying that's going to be going on. And so we started divulging in deeper into how does the chemtrails have anything to do with the fires themselves. And so we started exploring and extrapolating the data that we could find. And one of the big things that we found was this, the types of chemicals that are used in the chemtrail spraying. It causes oxidation in vegetation, which what that means is that it dries out the vegetation fairly quick. And this leaves a lot of grass, underbrush, trees, you name it, that were heavily saturated with the chemtrail spraying. And there's a lot of chemicals that goes into that. But one of them we do understand is silver nanoparticles. And silver nanoparticle oxidizes everything that it touches. And more importantly, it doesn't just saturate back into the ground. It actually evaporates and then releases back up into the air, which is something that we will have all of the information on a website that you can go to. You can see all the research that we have. So that being said, we understood that in the state of California, a lot of other places, even like in Texas, there's a lot of funding that was cut with the natural resources, the forestry, the BLM, the folks that take care of a lot of the underbrush that you would normally see in the wooded areas, or just in general. So there's a lot of debris that's still there. A lot of the funding was cut, and so there isn't anybody there to remove any type of fire hazards that we've seen anyway, whether it's in Maui, whether it's in California, or even what we're seeing in Texas anyway, the Panhandle area. And so all the vegetation dries out fairly quickly, and within 2-3 months, and then the fires start. Now, one of the big things I want to kind of note on this is we wanted to understand how does these fires start. And now a lot of people say this is a pretty complex situation. It could be as simple as just walking, and you can create a static electricity with your feet, and you could start a fire. Now, that was one probable cause that we kind of explored. However, we just found that to be false. By any scientific standard of measurement of test, and we try to repeat the test ourselves, and it is just impossible. Now, here's some things that we have come across that we have learned is that Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, along with Vanguard, they have been producing what they call the high power weapons. There's different classifications of them. We also know that Vanguard had sold the high power weapon systems to China. And at one point, a couple of years into it, China found out that they were also selling them to the US government. So they placed sanctions on Vanguard so that they can't, they're not supposed to sell it to anybody else. They're mad. China's mad because now we have it, but China has it. So Vanguard, BlackRock have been essentially selling these high power weapons. Now, one of the things I did in my investigation was I was looking into exactly how big these high power weapons can be. Now, I'm going to kind of give you an idea, but one of the things is that we came across is there's different sizes depending on what you're looking at. So we do know that the the U.S. government has had a contract with Lockheed Martin Skunk Works I believe in 2006, and then in 2021, Biden says, okay, we decided we're not going to put them on our C-130s. But unfortunately, that was kind of a lie because we found that some C-130s have been outfitted with them. We also found out that Lockheed Martin and Vanguard have been trying to take the concept of the high-powered weapons and shrinking them down to as small as possible. And one of the things that we found was the F-35 fighter jets were equipped with them just as well as, a smaller version compared to the C-130 jumbo jets. And, in this particular video that I showed earlier, it shows an F-35. This particular footage was given to me anonymously by someone who had access to this particular video. But this was taken at the time on the early hours of February 27th, or the evening in 26th of February 27th in the morning. And it shows an F-35 deploying a high-powered weapon over the great state of Texas, and essentially, catching some of the land masses, some of these areas under brushes, or what do you want to call them, on fire. So we were trying to validate the video as best as we could, and we put it through quite a few programs. As far as we know, is that it's not an AI. This is a legitimate video. I'll kind of give you an idea of what it looks. So this is the actual footage that we received. Now, the background, I apologize for their background music that was kind of attached to the video. That's the only thing that was added to the video, but the video itself is in raw footage other than the sound. I think it's for reasons beyond my understanding. So we do know this happened. So one of the other things that we were looking at was the video that we showed earlier, where you see the purple flames, right? And what was interesting about that flames is any firefighter would know and understand is that particular any type of flame that you would approach, you would see, whether it's by video or whether it's in person. So generally, when there is a fire, the color of the fire itself, it gives you an indication as to what type of fuel is being used. And in this particular case, we know it as kind of a magenta or a purple color. What we've learned is that it was potassium pomegranate. Okay, so it's a potassium pomegranate type of material. So we explored a little bit further. We're looking for potassium pomegranate, how and what type of vegetation gives off of a potassium pomegranate type of chemical. And what we found is that there is no vegetation that actually gives that off. But what we did discover is that location, number one, we were able to pinpoint that exact location. And number two, just down the road from that property is a fire department. And they have been under scrutiny quite a few times for supposedly acts of arson. So what we do understand is that a lot of fire departments out there do have a drone equipment that allows them to be able to carry, they call Dragon Ball eggs. And what they are essentially is round spherical balls. They're filled with potassium pomegranate at the first half of it. The second half, that's where they inject it with a glycol type material. And they fill the balls into this little hopper inside of the drone, and they fly the drones out into areas where it's very difficult to traverse in person, and so it saves a lot of lives. This is where they go and they drop the balls, and when they hit the ground, the two chemicals mix, starts the fire. And what they do is they burn a lot of the underbrush out before the main fire comes in. And so essentially what happens is they take away the fuel so that the main fire, it doesn't have any fuel when it reaches that point, and it just dies out. And then the fire department then can get in there, dig out, continue to dig out any vegetations, try to put whatever fires they can out. So it's a really good tool. But in this particular video, we don't know if that fire department over there was using that particular type of equipment to start that fire, to burn out any underbrush in that area, to prevent the fire from spreading. That we don't know. We don't know if that was an act of arson or if that's something that we're doing to try to stop the slow or the spread of the fire. We have not been able to confirm that. And at this point, I don't, no one's really come forward. But we were able to get the footage off TikTok. So, pardon me, it's really interesting because now we have at the very far west of the point of the fire when it started. We do know that it was actually started by an F-35 with a high-powered weapon. Now, I want to note that XL, the electric company, they claim that they started their telephone poles that started the fire. And one of the things I want to show you, I have done a lot of research on this, but I'm going to show you some things that kind of clarify why the claim that XL started the fire by accident was untrue. And we're going to get into this here. So here, what you're looking at is the color code of the fire. And it tells you exactly what type of material that is actually being used. In this case, of what we saw, I was saying before, was a purple color. We know that's potassium chloride, or another word for potassium palmicrate. So this is the company that produces the drones that have a hopper with Dragon Ball eggs that are filled with potassium chlorate or potassium palmicrate with glycol. And so this is a fireball dropping drones are on the front lines of wildfire prevention. And I applaud them. So potassium palmicrate, this is the chemical. And so ping pong balls or Dragon Ball eggs are filled with a chemical powder, form of potassium palmicrate, then injected with glycol upon release. It's causing the chemical reaction that ignites the ping pongs. They are loaded into a hopper attached to larger drones and dropped.
Heads up for the tree coming up right here.
Dispatch, Stewart, I'm ready to repeat. Alright, Eric, we've started a payroll mission here at Kilo and headed to the east.
Stewart, time, Bill.
Good copy, yes, thank you.
Right here, there's a lot of research that's gone into this, and a lot of money as well. Basically, they can cover quite a very long stretch of land. So one of these, they actually cost about $80,000. Now, I called the company. And what I've learned is the amount is pretty close to it. So it can be the basics is about 80,000.
but to be really effective, it's going to cost the fire department somewhere between $120,000 and $130,000 for one of these. And so I want to just kind of stress again, I don't know personally, even through research, if this particular fire on the south side, if that was if that was the fire department's attempt to try to burn out whatever to stop the spread of the fire. But looking back at the video, what we could see is that the fire was actually being it was moving southward, so it wasn't you see the fire itself moving towards the east, because we do know that the wind direction at the time was moving from west to east and kind of a little bit from south to I want to say southwest to northeast. But one point in the video, we did see that it was moving southward towards the residence areas there. And based on the pattern and the fire itself, and we've taken a look at the map, there was quite a bit of an area there that got burned out. There was quite a few homes that were affected by it as well. I'm not sure if it was a decision that went bad, or if this was something that was planned. We don't know, but it raises a lot of speculation. So on here, one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is understanding the burn patterns that we have been able to try to understand how burn patterns happen. Now, again, how like a lot of firefighters that I've spoken to say that generally the burn patterns are pretty consistent, but at the same time, fires can become unpredictable at the time of the fire. Now, I'm going to show you some things that are going to maybe kind of raise an eyebrow or two, but we're hoping maybe through all this we get some kind of clarification. So what you're looking right here is we're seeing streaks that are moving from the west to the east. And this is kind of turned around. So the pictures actually were on the east side, and further up, that's the west side. We see the pattern of the fire is in straight lines. And majority of the fire departments, firefighters I've spoken to, and I show them this picture, they tell me that this is impossible. Fires don't move in a straight line. Nature doesn't move in a straight line. That's the best way to put it. So this did raise some eyebrows. Again, this was taken shortly after the fire was started. Based on the video evidence that we have of the F-35, this looks pretty consistent with that pattern. And so here's another image. We have on the left side of the screen, you're going to see two different clusters of fires. And then you're going to move south to the southeast, and you're going to see another row cluster. Now, the ones that are a little bit more to the northeast, those are separate clusters, but we do believe that could possibly be from the debris that's actually being blown in that direction. So again, it kind of raises some eyebrows because we have two separate clusters. We have the one that's on the far west side there, and then we have the one to the south. And you see the direction is moving to the northeast. And so here's another picture that we have discovered. And these are separate clusters where the fire has started at these different locations. And so this kind of raises suspicions because when we're looking at the type of the fuel and the material, we do understand that the material itself is grass or brush. and oftentimes the grass or brush, especially when it's really dry, they burn out pretty fast, and so the likelihood of it actually jumping from one end of the county to the other end of the county is pretty improbable. By most firefighter standards that they told me, this pattern here, it doesn't make any sense. It only suggests that a possible arson has been done, because when you've got one fire starting in this county here, and you've got about 7 counties away, you have another one, and then you've got fires starting in the north, and you got fires starting in the south, and so that's indicative of a arson pattern. So this is a telephone pole that Xcel Energy, Minneapolis-based electric company, official photo of the telephone pole. This is the official photo of this here. And so one of the things is I went to the exact location of where this telephone pole is, and I have some issues with this. So the fire occurs whenever the combustible fuel in the presence of oxygen at extremely high temperature becomes gas, and so on. So we have what they call the fire triangle. You got heat, fuel, and oxygen. Those 3 things, they have to be pretty consistent with one another. And so we got the heat source, which is responsible for the initial ignition of the fire. It is also needed to maintain the fire and enable it to spread. Okay. So we know the fuel in Texas was primarily just grass and brushes. There were some trees. However, what we do know is that the Panhandle area it's very rugged terrain, very sparse in grass. So it's not very dense. There's certain areas where it's really dense, but for the vast majority of it, it's not dense at all. So the continuation of the fuel sourcing, that raises a lot of questions. Now, oxygen is another one. So we do know there was a lot of oxygen happening that day. The winds were blowing extremely hard. And from when I was there, and I understand this, is when the wind does blow in Texas Panhandle, the wind could be blowing pretty hard, pretty fast, enough to make you kind of topple over. So in this particular case, this was a ripe opportunity for the fire to spread quite drastically. Now, I'm going to show you some things here. So this is a grass head fire and grass backfire. Okay, so grass head fire doesn't usually exceed more than 200 degrees. Okay, so keep that in mind, 200 degrees. And shrub head fire doesn't get to be more than 600 degrees. Okay, so this gives you an idea, shrubland, grassland. This was a report that was taken in 1970 when they were doing some measurements, some data on shrubland, grassland fires, as well as tree fires. And so this gives you the information. And this was taken in 1972, I apologize. So we know that aluminum melting point is 1,221 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And around 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, a typical tire, the temperature will increase about 50 degrees after being, on the highway for about 30 minutes. But tires melt around 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. However, tires will begin to break down about 392 degrees, okay? And it will explode around 752 degrees. So grassland fire and shrub fire does not reach 752 degrees. So this is where we go down this rabbit hole of conspiracy theory. Now, if you take a very close look at this picture, this is aluminum. Aluminum melted at 1200 degrees. The tires, as you see, they exploded around 752 degrees. And you see this car is just completely crumpled up. What you see the front of the car, that is aluminum roofing, so like a carport, or what's left of it. Now, the vast majority of this house here, this particular house, there's really not much left except for just metal and then some of the bricks. But you take a look in the background, and these trees are still standing. Now, this is the image that I was talking about earlier of potassium pomegranate. We know that the potassium pomegranate was used in this particular portion of the fire here. This is just more information about it. Now, this particular house, I want to explain to you guys a little bit. This is the Wheeler family house. This is out by Canadian, Texas. Older couple in their 80s, and they lost their house. There was a lot of things that just didn't add up on this property. Number one, if you look at the top screen, moving from the right to the left, that is a second row of trees. Then they were all burnt to a crisp. The second row, the one row down below that, partials of it were affected. Now on the right side of the screen, we see the arrow point to the fence. So what we do know is that there was a streak mark that leads up to that fence. The portion of the fence, I want to say, is about 3 to 4 feet wide. It's black. The fence is made out of wood, so they sculpted that fence. On the other side of that fence is a white 500-gallon propane tank, and that white propane tank was not touched at all. There was no singeing. There was no the paint on it was not bubbled. It wasn't coming up. There wasn't any scorch marks of any kind on that propane tank. So that whatever it was that was directing to this, it stopped right at that fence line. Now, on the far left side of the screen, we know that the pattern of the fire came down because where the arrow stops, that particular bush was only burnt halfway. The side that's facing towards the house is completely gone. The side that's facing away from the house is still intact, still standing. We know from that point, the fire itself or whatever was causing the fire hit the house. The house was affected. And the only thing that was left of that is just below that arrow. You look down, you'll see that little tiny carport. It's like made out of aluminum there. That carport is still, in fact, standing. The front, where it meets the house, it took some damage. But as far as the carport itself, is completely intact. So this house had burned down so hard and so fast. It wasn't just something that like you light something inside the house and then it just gradually builds up. And if that was the case, as we saw in the previous photo, where that aluminum roofing was laying on top of that car, that's a separate house than this one. And this one here, the carport's still standing, but the house is literally gone. That little white carport off the side of it, that's completely gone. There's nothing left of the house except for that carport. Now, if you take a look on the left side where the arrow comes down to the fence, that big bush there, half of that bush is burnt. The other half is still there, but the inside half is gone. And you come down to the fence line, there's a bush right there, the bush that stands right in front of it, and that most of that bush is gone. Along that fence line, I would say probably good, say 10 to 15 feet. That fence is completely scorched. It's burnt to a crisp. Now, if you go down the fence line this way, you go down up the fence line this way towards the gate, that fencing is completely untouched. Now, here's the indication I wanted to show you right here. You'll see this carport. It's still intact, still standing. It's that close to the house, but the house itself being a greater fuel source, that aluminum would have had melted completely, or it would have come down somewhat. But only the very fringe front of it was burnt. But then most of the damage is right to the front. You see some scalding underneath it. That's probably most likely from smoke damage. So this arrow here, you'll see the bush, what I'm talking about in the picture. Only half of that bush is burnt. If you go further back in that picture, you'll see those two pieces of plywood standing up. It's actually a chain link fence. There's chickens in there. There's a blue tarp on it as well. But that particular chicken coop was completely untouched. There's no scorch marks, nothing. If you go another 4 feet off to the left there was a generator sitting right next to a shed, and that was completely demolished. As again, you see in this picture here, you see that little fence line, just that little 3-4 foot section, and it stops once it reaches to the top, because on the other side of its propane tank, it was completely unaffected by this. So we had a lot of questions regarding to how this fire moves. We know that fire is unpredictable. We can't just say, okay, fire is unpredictable and just leave it at that. No, any good firefighter investigator will look at all of the evidence. And what we're doing today is trying to present the evidence as it is, as what we see, and trying to make sense of it. Okay, so we were looking at different types of alternative tools that can ignite a fire in multiple locations without chemicals. So we do know that since the late 1950s, early 1960s, the U.S. government has been experimenting with, through DARPA, the use of direct energy weapons and the different types. And again, at the end of this documentary, we'll have a link that you can go to. We'll have all of the evidence there. We'll show you exactly what we have discovered and what we have found. So this was a legitimate picture that was taken, despite the thought police, social media tried to coin this as not being legitimate. We have run this through our software program to find out if this is a raw picture, if this has been altered in any way, if there's any AI, and what we have learned, it's not. This is the legitimate original picture of a video that was taken of this particular fire that happened, that was started in Lahaina. So we know that Lockheed Martin has laser weapon systems, okay? So one of the big things is that they're preparing for the upcoming conflicts. They're finding other ways other than your ICBM nuclear warheads, which is kind of a devastating, out of control. This is a little bit more controlled. It costs less in using the energy than your traditional bombs or bullets. And so one of the big things that they've also been focusing on just recently is ground-based radars that can take out a swarm of drones. And so this is what they call their next gen threat requires next gen defenses. Okay, so we do know that they are capable of creating the weapons and also the defense side of it too. So, and just to understand, this is all coming from Lockheed Martin's own website. This is harnessing the power of lasers for 21st century security at sea, in the air, and on the ground. Okay, Lockheed Martin is developing laser weapon systems ready to defend the U.S. and allied forces, combined with our platform integration expertise. These systems are designed to defeat a growing range of threats to military forces and infrastructure across all domains. So right there, they admitted that they created high-powered weapons that can essentially destroy infrastructure as well as military forces. So Lockheed Martin delivers high-energy laser to U.S. Air Force for their flight testing on an AC-130J aircraft. So we also do know that they have a drone out there. It's called a Morpheus. And that's what you're seeing right there, that orange and black. That's called a Morpheus. It has high-power microwave systems in it. And the way that works is taking out swarms of drone. Would you know the F-35s are equipped with lasers as well? They have the different types of high-power weapons. There's beam penetrations. There's all-weather capability. Beam velocity, beam dwell time, rapid aim capabilities. And there are 4 major types of laser weapon system applications. They would have different wavelengths and differing their output of power. So we have a gas dynamic sizer, chemical sizer, solid staser, Rubier, glacier, semiconductor. Now, this is semiconductor, right? We've heard Biden talking about why the U.S. needs to invest in semiconductors. They want to be the number one in producing semiconductors. Well, this will be one of the main reasons why they want to produce large, vast amounts of semiconductors. Heat catapultizer, a free electrolyzer. And this is the website that you can go to find all this information. And I want to stress that I've done quite a bit of research on this, and, sourcing the information directly from Lockheed Martin's own website, as well as some of the others, like Vanguard as well. So here we have the chemtrails and the substances. So this is the periodic table of elements. Barium and aluminum. We also know that silver is also used in as well. So silver iodine is a compound, that helps ice crystals form. Dry ice, liquid carbon dioxide, table salt. Other elements that have been used in cloud seeding include potassium, iodine, electric charges, and infrared laser pulses. So lasers, infrared lasers, essentially that could be equipped on airplanes or drones. Cloud seeding techniques can vary. It could be dispersed by using aircraft. You'll see a lot of commercial aircrafts that are being paid to do this, which is not very, it's not uncommon. You just go outside and look up in the air, and you'll get a pretty good idea. The goal of cloud seeding can be used to increase rain, snow, reduce hail damage, or disperse fog. But we also know it can do the opposite as well. So this is the silver iodine and silver toxicity guidelines. It has a greater impact on human health. It has a great impact on to aquatic species, as well as algae. Impacts silver to terrestrial animals as well, and to plants. So what are the harms of silver iodine? It can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, skin irritations, eye irritation, respiratory problems, and headaches. And despite debates, silver iodine persists as the most common material known for its effect ice nucleating properties. However, its use raises ecological concerns because it might be toxic to terrestrial and aquatic life. So what are the negative effects? So, we don't know specifically if cloud seeding poses a threat, but some experts believe it could lead to silver toxicity and environmental concerns if the practice becomes common on a much larger scale. Similarly, people worrying that cloud seeding could throw off the Earth's natural balance of moisture. This causes oxidation. Iodine can remain in the soil for a long time because it combines organic material in the soil. But it can be also taken up by plants that grow in the soil. So cows and other animals will eat these plants and will take up the iodine in the plants. So iodines will then enter surface water, can re-enter the air as iodine gases. So it's cheaper alternative to big ticket technological solutions such as the desalination of water piped inland from the Pacific Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. Cloud seeding programs to boost both rain and snowfall are now underway in Texas, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, Idaho, New Mexico, and California. And this was June 23rd of 2023. So keep this in mind. The fire in Texas happened on January 26th, January 27th of 2024. So we do know that they used a lot of cloud seeding that cause oxidation with a lot of the grass and brush. So what are the side effects of silver iodine? The cause is a gray or blue discoloration on your skin or other tissues known as argyria. You see these documentaries or other movies about or videos of people who make their own silver iodine and they consume it basically, for their health, and they take too much of it, and then it causes the condition to be permanent. Only though it's a cosmetic problem, it's not otherwise harmful to their health. Now, the largest wildfire in Texas history, it burned more than 1,500 square miles of rangeland in the Panhandle, northeast of Amarillo in February and March 2024. This is according to Texas Tribune. Now, we do know there was roughly about 2 million acres that were destroyed at the final tally. So on August 8th, 2023, the wind-driven wildfires of Maui destroyed more than 2,200 structures and caused about $5.5 billion in damage. The most significant impacted area was the historic district of Lahaina, where more than 100 lives were lost. We'll get into that in a bit here. We do know that Hawaii's military base dumped 630,000 pounds of toxic nitrate into the ocean. And Hawaii's electric company, Kehe Generating Station, alone discarded nearly 600,000 pounds of waste, and most of it into the air. About 430,000 pounds of it were sulfuric acid. Okay. And you can go here and you can see about the Maui chemtrails. There's a whole bunch of, articles about it out there. Then we went to the National Library of Medicine to explore more about this. This is a website that you can go to. This is a government website. The rapid detection of virus is based on silver nanoparticles modified with bromine ions and etc. So here it says that nearly 200 million people have been diagnosed with COVID-19 since the outbreak in 2019. This disease claimed more than 5 million lives worldwide. Currently, researchers are focused on a vaccine development. Okay, so we all know about that. So the work design detection platform based on surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy, SEERS, by introducing acetyl and calcium ions into the silver nanoparticles, reinforced substrate system, realized the rapid detection. Okay, so there's another classic indication of silver nanoparticles essentially being introduced into the Q-tips for testing. So I just wanted to show you this as how it relates to the COVID. Okay. And so this one I wanted to show you, this is kind of part of our research as well, about the Panhandle and its resources. So here's something that's been out for ages since the Art of War by Sun Tzu. The rule of war is to cut off the supply chains, hit the fuel lines, destroy wealth, disarm citizens, affect transportation, silence important communications, create diseases, and so on. Now, this picture here that you're looking at, in particular, this is the Texas Panhandle area. This shows you the mineral map. And one of the most important things I want you guys to notice is that there are large deposits of lithium and cobalt in that area. And it says here that Sierra County is the second poorest county in New Mexico. This area is ripe for mineral production. Mining is one way, they can turn it around. Renewable energy requires copper, the gold, silver, magnesium, and so on, and uranium. And so this is another map of the Texas Panhandle and New Mexico area. It's a lot of land down there is ridden with a lot of renewable source materials like they use for your electric batteries. And here's the information that you can go to find out that, understand that the United States isn't a country, it's a corporation. That's something that's been on a lot of people's minds lately as they're discovering. So one of the things I wanted to also share with you guys as well, while I was down in Texas, we did see some people going around offering to purchase homes or purchase land that people have been living on. Like, for example, the Wheeler family, there was a guy that came in from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. He's actually from Dubai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But he came in and essentially he had bought the land for 3 times over its value. And the couple, they're in their 80s, they were in emotional distress. And so I want to explain a little bit about the Panhandle and connections with land grabbing. So these actors have been motivated by a number of factors, including cheap land, potential for improvisation, agricultural production, and raising food and biofuel prices. Building on these motivation, investments can be broken down into 3 main categories: food, biofuel, and speculative investment. That's the one I want everybody to kind of just, focus on. And here's a picture, this is going back from 17th of July, 1880. This came out about, land grabbing back in the day. So it says here, Ecclesiastes 1:9-11, it says, history merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing's new under the sun is truly new. So understand that this has been done before. This is just a repeat because this obviously has not been addressed. Ecclesiastes 3:15, it says, that which is already has been, that which is to be already has been, and God seeks what has been driven away. Okay. Some say this verse means that the present and the future will repeat the past, and that is God's purpose will not be thwarted. And I think a part of this is that God seeks those who were victimized by this as well. In Romans 15:4, so some people say that good history repeats itself when people are good students of history, and bad history repeats itself when people are bad students of history. So land grabbing, and why is it a concern? So some of the details of what's known as land grabs. Land deals that happened without the free, prior, and informed consent of communities that often result in farmers being forced from their homes and their families left hungry. When did land grabbing begin? We know this in 2007, 2008. The increase of land acquisitions around the world, which began in the early 2000s, took of particular importance in 2007, 2008, at the very start of the global financial food crisis. So, what is the definition of illegal land grabbing? So, since 2008, the term land grabbing has gained notoriety around the globe and refers to a large-scale land acquisition, mainly by private investors, but also by public investors and agribusinesses that buy farmland or lease on a long-term basis to produce agricultural commodities. So how does land grabbing cause food insecurity? So, however, detractors have highlighted that land acquisition negatively affects food security in rural communities. And this is because they limit access to water, resources, and productive agricultural land, which also affects their livelihoods. And we're seeing this in Idaho right now. So what is a predatory land grab? First, predatory land grab involves private individuals or organizations who buy the land immediately after disaster, while those affected are still under duress, or they simply evict people from their land by registering often fraudulently land ownership claims. What is land grabbing in Hawaii? In the wake of the catastrophic fires have decimated the historic town of Lahaina in Maui, developers have descended upon the island, and this devastation became a financial opportunity for developers to grab land from the fire survivors. The people in Lahaina are losing their land. So sales of land around Lahaina since the devastating August 8th fire already exceeded the total amount sold in all of 2023. And that's been driven in part by Lahaina residents who lost their homes, but also have the means to resettle close by, as a timeline for rebuilding in the town remains uncertain. Well, why does Texas lose land? So Texas gave up much of its western territories and has claimed exchange for $10 million to pay off the previous debts. Just a little Wikipedia history about that. And again, you can go online and you can actually see that there's a lot of land that has been selling. And the Panhandle area is pretty prolific, but you'll see a lot of land that just comes and goes. It changes hands so quickly. It's being constantly sold. State calls for investigation into the cause of the Texas Panhandle wildfires. Now, I had reached out to Governor Greg Abbott, and this is to share the information that I've come across. However, this is a letter I got from Governor Greg Abbott, so I'm hoping that he's watching this documentary. Understand that I have, this information here is being freely shared. And it says here that, Dear Mr. Starry, thank you for contacting the office of the governor. We understand you have documentation that you wish to share pertaining to the recent wildfires in Texas Panhandle. Please know that the safety and security of all Texas remain Governor Abbott's top priority. Although we recognize this matter is of great concern, it is important to note that our office does not have the investigative authority you seek. You may therefore wish to share your information with appropriate local law enforcement entities to determine how you can best be assisted. We thank you for your comments to your commitment to the countless Texans who have been impacted by the devastating wildfires, and we wish you all the best. Please let us know if we can assist you in the future. Sincerely yours, Marie Dahlman, Deputy Director, Constituent Communication Division, Office of the Governor. So just to kind of, reiterate a little bit, the Office of the Governor of Texas is launching an investigation, but they are not the principal. I guess they're not investigating it. So I'm a little confused as how that's working, because if it's just a localized area, but the issue is that they had 2 million acres. The fire expanded all the way up into the state of Oklahoma and parts of New Mexico. So that being said, are they actively looking for the evidence? We'll see, and time will tell. So here, I want to just kind of go back a little bit. We're going to be talking about the two locations where the fires, in particular, that we have been investigating. If you look to where it says utility pole to the far left of your screen there, that little blue dot is the exact location of where that utility pole that PG&E claims that started the fire. And if you look to the far left, or excuse me, to the far right, it says a ranch there. Just below there, that's where the blue dot is. That's where the ranch is, up with the purple flames. That's where that particular fire took place. So this is XL's telephone pole. Now, here's a couple of problems with this particular picture. I'm going to kind of just point out the obvious. The grass that's actually underneath the pole itself, and the pole itself was not burned up. However, if you actually look out, you'll see kind of a skip in the fire itself. You see a long streak of fire going down, and then you see a spot where there's nothing. And then beyond that, you'll see that large area there was burnt. And then you go further off to the top of the screen there. That particular grassland area was not burnt at all. So there's some issues with this particular photo here. So one of the things is that we were able to do, I had gone there to the site. This is at 9197 County Road O, where they claim the pole was. However, what you're going to see in this particular photo here is that there are no telephone poles along the side of the road. Okay, so the issue of that pole actually being on the ground, further towards the top of the screen, you'll see there are no telephone poles whatsoever. However, there are telephone poles set inward towards the property there. So it raises a lot of speculation as to XL's actual claim that particular telephone pole started the fire. I just want to go back here. One of the key indicators I want to share with you, whenever a tree or a telephone pole is set to be cut down or slated to be cut down, what you're going to see is usually they tape it, they spray it orange, or they'll wrap it with orange tape. And as you can see clearly here, that this pole was actually slated to come down. Interestingly enough, that this particular picture, you'll see the power line, it goes from the right of the screen all the way to the far left of the screen. Interesting enough that the line itself did not snap or break. My question is where is that line going to? So it doesn't make any sense. And we have this Smokehouse Creek Fire footage from this security camera here. It actually gives you a date. It's at 5:31 p.m. on the February 27th. Okay, so this is the location towards the bottom right side of the screen where that red dot is. That's where the fire location is. If you look up to the north, if you go up and up to the, to the left of the screen there, that's actually where the fire department is located. But to kind of give you an idea, this particular area, you'll see brushes there, you'll see some grassland there that was devastated by that fire. Again, we don't know if this was an attempt by the fire department to stop a lot of the major fire itself from spreading southward, but we do know the flames did move southward, so it raises some questions there. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you some footage that we've been able to recover from online. And I want to show you guys what we have discovered.
Police officer that was over there, he should be investigated. I was told by people who escaped there on foot that the officer had blocked the road, people could not get out. My brother literally had to go cut the chain off of the old sugar mill camp area to let people out of the top of Kilauea Mauka because the roads were all blocked because the police were blocking it. We want accountability. It needs to be investigated by a third party that is not associated with the government. I was blocked out several days. I could not come in. There was chaos. People was rioting. What's on those documents for FEMA? I'm an attorney myself. There's so many things that are questionable that has happened here. Right up to that, the governor says, oh, I'm going to take the land. He's talking about the state wants to purchase all this land, that he should get this land. This land belongs to the people already. Okay. The government is liable for this, grossly negligent, at least if not criminally negligent. They should clean up all that land, restore that land to the people who own that, because they failed.
Now, you need to force people in order to change their behavior.
Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Of course you have to use force. People don't want your lousy digital currency. They don't want to be locked down at home and told what to do. We knew this was coming, of course. The WEF has been warning us for years that the next pandemic wouldn't be a virus, it would be a cyber attack. The WEF detailed this attack in their Cyber Polygon report.
One home sitting there because they had the right roof on it. And anyway, since I took office, FEMA's provided Texas alone because if you fly over these areas that are burned to the ground, you'll see in the midst of 20 homes that are just totally destroyed, one home sitting there because they had the right roof on it. And anyway, since I took office, FEMA's provided Texas alone because if you fly over these areas that are burned to the ground, you'll see in the midst of 20 homes that are just totally destroyed, one home sitting there because they had the right roof on it. And anyway, since I took office, FEMA's provided Texas.
average person, no idea this is going on. No idea. They're shutting down the food supply worldwide. They are culling the livestock. They are buying up and shutting down the farmlands. They're cutting off farms from water like they're doing in Idaho, 500,000 acres of prime farmland. In Oregon, they're stopping you from growing your own food in your backyard and imposing severe restrictions to your water usage there. They are saying to reach our carbon goals, we're going to destroy the ability to produce beef, chicken, eggs, and fish. Call it whatever you want. Say it's for climate change. Say it's for health. But the outcome's always the same. You're just trying to shut the food system down. Why these people hate this, why this is a threat to them, can only be explained by literally being at war with God's creation. This is an act of war against humanity.
And Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda.
To stop land being used for cattle and growing grain for the billions of animals that we keep in our intensive farms. And then finally, we cannot hide away from human population growth because, you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
This is traditional sweet corn. Now, what's really wild about this is not what we used to call our heirloom seeds. This is just our regular sweet corn that you buy off the shelf. This is GMO corn. Now, we grow this as our field corn. And the reason I want to show you this is I'm going to show you two things. This is heirloom corn. Now, we don't weed it. Normally every year, this corn has come up and done really good for the last 10 years. Same seed, so I've grown it over and over, and we rotate our crops. But also, you look at the sunflowers. Once you look at them sunflowers, the sun, I can't see it. Well, the sun basically is right there, and they've got the flowers have turned away from the sun. This is not something, obviously, if you look down this, that's our garden. We grow over an acre worth of just garden. So what I'm trying to get at is something's not right. There's two things here, right? The amount of aluminum in our soil now is 5 times to 10 times higher than it was even last year. Let me show you something else. Now that sweet corn is bought, like I said, from the store, so it's not an heirloom seed. It's supposed to be an all-natural seed. It's non-genetically GMO, but I'm starting to doubt it. However, these are cucumber plants. Now, traditionally, those cucumbers, I'd have so many. After putting them on the stand, we'd be giving them away, giving them to food pantries. And our corn, you know, the heirloom corn, we'd be giving it away. Our garden this year has suffered the worst. It's not due for not water. These are some of our hot pepper plants. Normally, these plants, I would have so many of these hot peppers that you wouldn't be able, I wouldn't be, like I said, I couldn't sell enough of them. We'd be giving them away. And hopefully we have a better garden next year. So we still got enough that we're going to be able to maintain costs, operational costs. We still have our vegetable stand. It's just not booming like it usually is. We've let the weeds kind of come back up and take over some of the garden because we weren't getting the production out of it what we should. So the stand's good. We're going to can enough for our family, but as far as being able to provide for others, it's not going to be as viable for us to be able to do that. Y'all have a good day.
they get their designation. It's amazing. Every federal agency is bending over backwards to give this private corporation everything they want. And working farmers in my state and working people in my state who live on the land, maybe have lived on the land for generations, eking out a living, they can't get anything. They can't even get compensated for their land. And this corporation is making billions. And you're telling me there's just nothing you can do about it?
We do not influence the decision-making process for the project.
So it was not a decision at all on your part. I mean, you're just a rubber stamp.
Well, we don't approve any projects. We don't issue.
So the Fast 41 is just you're just saying that that's just merely a what? That's just an administrative designation. I mean, you don't have anything to do with it.
It is an administrative
So
designation.
what's the permitting council do then? You don't review applications. You don't. When you make the designation, what does an algorithm do it?
If a project meets the criteria for a covered project, meaning it is subject to NEPA.
Who reviews whether it meets the covered criteria?
I do.
Oh, okay. So you do make a determination.
Less than 200 pounds right now, I'm mandating that you start a bulk.
Ultimately, to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric, with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's Atmospheric Research Department, and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus. But the government denied it for 12 years. After a short delay, the project officially continued, and in 1965, Project Storm Fury had targeted Hurricane Betsy for seeding. On that day, the storm immediately changed direction and made landfall in southern Florida. Congress blamed it on Project Storm Fury, but the government claimed that the hurricane shifted before they ever had a chance to seed it. And after 2 months of congressional hearings, the project was allowed to continue. During the Vietnam War, weather modification was weaponized in Operation Popeye. And as a result, starting in October of 1978, an international treaty now prohibits the military use of weather modification. In 1997, U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen said that we have enemies capable of altering the climate and setting off earthquakes and volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. And so controlling the weather seems to be a very real thing. And while the media lies to you, the government has placed gag orders on employees of the National Weather Service, who have sought legal counsel to reverse these illegal gag orders. And they no longer need to seed the clouds. Chemtrails, or as John Brennan of the CIA calls it, stratospheric aerosol injection, allows these black government projects the ability to put whatever they want into the skies. And HAARP has the ability to change the temperature within the ionosphere. In congressional hearings, it was made known that HAARP was a successful operation of controlling the ionosphere with ultra-high powered radio frequency, and that the Air Force and DARPA went on to develop their own versions.
The Air Force has gotten great value out of HAARP in the past. We took it over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HAARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed.
Frequency transmission manipulation of hurricanes is one of hundreds of patents on weather control. With conductive particles added to the storm, radio frequencies from multiple locations can steer a hurricane. According to geoengineeringwatch.org, this happened with Hurricane Ian.
This is Hurricane Ian, passing near the NexRad transmission facility in Key West, Florida. When the transmission facilities are fully energized, they have a repelling effect on any air mass that has been saturated with electrically conductive climate engineering elements. As Hurricane Ian is allowed to make landfall, the frequency transmission facility in Melbourne, Florida is fully engaged. This effectively slows Ian's migration inland. The transmissions can diminish precipitation in some regions while augmenting it in others.
The U.S. Air Force is sending up canisters into the atmosphere filled with chemicals.
Another example is the array of
Senator Lindsey Graham this weekend finally told the truth and admitted the real reason we are sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and training and weapons. Listen.
Either we're going to help Ukraine or we're not. It's now time to give them the F-16s, let them fly the planes, long-range artillery to hit targets inside of Russia. They're sitting on $10 to $12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country in all of Europe. I don't want to give that money and those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of.
So, of course, it's not about the Ukrainian people at all. It never was. It's about $10 trillion of resources.
Thanks, Jessica Hopkins, Public Health Ontario. I was just wondering, so in the event there is a positive from milk, do we have a plan to start active surveillance in humans? I think that, I'm just sort of thinking about what's the next step? Are we just going to wait, or do we have something that's kind of queued up and ready to go once we see a positive? Thanks.
So, Jessica, that's exactly the protocol I was talking about in the enhanced surveillance that we're working to put together that we won't use. I shouldn't say we won't use. There's some potential ways we could use it. We could get baseline. We could do it on pigs. We could do it on avian, even though it's been done by the BC folks. So, but obviously the preoccupation is to land something so that if we do find a positive farm, we can get in there. But that's where our work right now has been focused on, trying to develop something that would be implementable around those farms. I will flag that, there's the science part and the lab part and the thinking through the epi part. And then there's the enormous sensitivities around who's going on farms, are these quarantined areas, the farmers, the undocumented workers or migrant workers, documented, like that whole government, and we're here to help you testing that has been very challenging in other jurisdictions who've attempted to do this.
So here's what we do now. It's really simple. We know that the NGOs are complicit with crimes against humanity. We know that they're trying to control the food production. We know that these fires are being set maliciously. We know that politicians are complicit with a lot of these actions as well. And to be honest, we're moving into a stage where and things are going to get a lot more difficult down the road unless, the investors understand what it is that they're investing in. And we have Congress actually understanding what they're getting into and what they're investing into. Because at the end of the day, without farms, without food, the strength of our nation is going to fail. It's going to buckle under the weight of, giving corporations the ability and the power. We've got Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their entire administration are complicit in these crimes as well. And so the question remains is what are the American people going to do at this point? And what is our American Congress? What are they going to do? Are they going to take a hard look at this and turn a 180 and rectify these mistakes, or are they going to continue on to try to deprive us of the basic things that we need for our lives? We know that the NGOs like Bill Gates. We know that BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, these are major investors. These are the three keystone investing companies that are basically brokering all this. We know that the weapons that are being used, against Americans, and especially the ranchers and farmers, they're being deprived of water. They're being deprived of the crops. With the silver nitrates or silver oxides, the oxidation in the plants that we see are affecting the non-GMO, and that's for a reason. It's because they want the GMO type sourcing. And if you take a look around the world, the United States is the only country that has GMO foods. Europe has actually banned any GMO foods from the United States. And so, they have their reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with because it's creating a lot of sickness. But at the same time, with all the chemtrail spraying that's going on, we're seeing the same exact symptoms as that's being reported with COVID-19. And now they're talking about tracking us. They're talking about controlling us. They're talking about, putting us in 15-minute cities. And I'm going to show you a video here of all of the cities in America that have volunteered to be 15-minute cities.
All right, you guys, check this out. Smart Cities Connect 2023 participating cities. Take a look. Shit's wild.
So now the real question remains is, what is our government going to do? More importantly, what are we going to do as American citizens? And what options do we have? And that's one of the greatest questions that I've had a lot of people I've encountered on social media I've come across asking me, what's the upside to this, right? And through some, hard research over the past 10 years or so on this, one of the things that I found is that we have a very interesting piece of legislation, a piece of law. It's actually in the Constitution, and Article 5, Section 2, it talks about the Convention of States. Right now we have, I believe, 19 states that have joined the Convention of States, and there's quite a few that are tabling it. They're bringing it up for vote or discussion this year. There's a couple of states right now. We know that Idaho and California are two states that haven't even tabled this discussion. And one of the things I've come across is that there is a Convention of State already in the works. It's been around since 2013. And basically, it gets into some of the synopsis of this. I'm going to show you here real quick. So you can go to conventionsofstates.com at the website here. So we have some people endorsing this. We have Pat Ballon, U.S. Congressman from Texas, and he says he's proud to endorse the Convention of States and the grassroots effort to call history's first ever Article 5 convention. Okay. You can sign the petition here so that all your state legislators can get this petition. The more people that sign this petition to call for Article 5 convention. So why call an Article 5 convention? Is simple. It's to bring the power back to the states and to the people where it belongs. Unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. shouldn't be allowed to make sweeping decisions that impact millions of Americans.
Guns, and drugs. We're talking about Chiquita, the biggest banana corporation in the world. In 2007, they pled guilty to paying more than $1.7 million to a terrorist organization, and they smuggled 3,000 AK-47s to them and assisted them in smuggling drugs to Europe. But what you might not have known is that the banana industry has been involved in this shit for forever. Chiquita used to be United Fruit Company, and we're about to go from bananas to the entire global economic system and why every nation around the world is enslaved to the bankers and the CIA. Buckle up. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that the CIA wasn't formed until after World War II. But corporations were doing that same job for decades, even a century or two before intelligence agencies were officially formed. We're talking convincing foreign governments to kill their own civilians on behalf of corporate interests back in the early 1900s. Even before World War I, United Fruit helped instate a coup of Honduras, making the first banana republic. And then once the CIA was officially created, one of their first operations was helping United Fruit overthrow the government of Guatemala, their elected president. If you've been following along at all, you already know about how the Dulles brothers were involved here. And at this point, if you don't believe in quote-unquote conspiracy theories, you don't understand the global economy. As John Perkins laid out in the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, economic hitmen are highly paid professionals who cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. They funnel money from the World Bank, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and other foreign aid organizations into the coffers of huge corporations in the pockets of a few wealthy families who control the planet's natural resources. I should know, I was an economic hitman. And yes, they actually call themselves that. On the day in 1971 when I began working with my teacher, Claudine, she informed me, my assignment is to mold you into an economic hitman. My job, she said, was to encourage the world leaders to become part of a vast network that promotes U.S. commercial interests. In the end, those leaders become ensnared in a web of debt that ensures their loyalty. We can draw on them whenever we desire to satisfy our political, economic, or military needs. In turn, they bolster their political position by bringing industrial parks, power plants, and airports to their people. The owners of U.S. engineering and construction companies become fabulously wealthy. If the economic hitmen don't convince the governments of these countries to go along with this plan, then they send in the jackals, which is what you would normally think of as a hitman. And if that doesn't work, then they send in the military. He outlines how this has happened over and over again in more than a dozen countries all around the world. Because what most people don't realize about the CIA and intelligence agencies in general is that they were founded by corporate lawyers. The Dulles brothers, who founded the CIA, were both corporate lawyers at Sullivan and Cromwell. Even Bill Donovan, who was the founder of the OSS, the predecessor of the CIA during World War II, he was also a corporate lawyer. And these people and their agency has always been about international financial relationships first. All the James Bond stuff is mostly just movies and means to achieve the financial and business ends. Like, a lot of people associate these guys with like the 1950s and the end of World War II, but actually they both fought in World War I and they were instrumental in drafting the Dawes Plan, which was the plan that decided how Germany would get fucked up by war reparations after World War I, and America and German businesses will get deeply tied together by all this debt. That interwar period was not an accident. It was created by legal writings made by legal professionals, lawyers, and the Dawes Plan set up the Bank for International Settlement, whose initial purpose was to oversee the settlement of World War I war reparation, that created a web of international banking connections created by the BIS and the Dulles brothers and their friends on Wall Street and in London and Germany. And then the Bank of International Settlements was instrumental to all of these guys making money off of both sides, funding the Germans during World War II and funding the Allies. In the end, they got his brother John Foster to do it for them. The Bank of International Settlements handled all of the looted Nazi gold that they stole from all the countries they took over. And then, post-World War II, as everyone was deciding what to do with the German economy, and a lot of the more socialist-leaning people in the United States government wanted to completely destroy Germany's ability to be an economic powerhouse, abolishing the Bank of International Settlements was the top of their list. But Allen Dulles and all of his buddies had a very different plan. They wanted to remake Germany into this powerhouse that would be a bulwark against socialism and communism that was up in Russia. And what do you know, Allen Dulles was instrumental in the Bretton Woods agreements that decided what would happen with post-war Germany after World War II. They decided post-World War I and post-World War II, these same brothers. And so these same dudes were instrumental in setting up the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF and the World Bank, which are now the unholy trifecta of the global monetary cabal. And that system is instrumental in everything that John Perkins describes in his book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Intelligence agencies aren't government agencies working for government interests. They never were. They were founded by corporate lawyers that realized that there are certain powers that corporations just don't have. One of which being legally being able to wage war, or legally being able to wage covert war. And through the founding of the CIA and other intelligence agencies around the world, corporations and corporate interests acquired the power to wage covert war. And just a few years later, Guatemala learned all about it, as did Iran, as did Panama, as did Chile, as did Vietnam. I could literally go on for an entire TikTok video. And yes, as a government agency, they are beholden to certain government policies. The CIA has to operate more or less within the structures of government. But that does not mean that the people in control of it and their financial and personal interests are aligned with our government and public interests. They have tricked us all into thinking that they are part of our government military directorate, that they are somehow fighting for the people. That has never been true. The intelligence agencies are a key part of the corporate control of the world, of the banking control of the world. That's why the dude that goes into all the supermarket aisles and talks about mega corporations owning all of our products also relentlessly talks about the CIA, despite it continually shadow banning my channels. Because corporations and covert warfare have been linked at the hip since long before any of us were born. And it's been a long time now that mega corporations and big banking interests have been the ones actually pulling the strings behind just about everything that happens in this world.
Now they do. So it all boils down to one question. Who do you think should decide what's best for you and your family? You or the vets? We vote for the American people every single time. What is the Article 5 Convention anyway? So Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution gives the states the power to call a convention to propose amendments. So it takes 34 states to call a convention and 38 to ratify any amendments that are proposed. Our conventions would only allow the states to discuss amendments that limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, imposes fiscal restraints, and places term limits on federal officials. Okay. So we want to know, so are we making any progress? You better believe it. Since the Convention of States was launched in 2013, we've been spreading like wildfire with millions of supporters nationwide. We have a petition signers in every single state house district across America. So we're actively working in all 50 states to pass the Convention of States resolutions, and check out the latest stats below. So all the ones that are in green have already passed. The ones that are in blue are in active legislation this year. The one that's North Carolina there, they've already passed it once in the House. They've got to pass it again in the chambers. And then we've got all these states that are in the white that have not tabled this discussion yet. And so if you are from the state, I would urge you to sign this petition, get this information out to your neighbors, to your friends. So who's behind this thing? Well, we never thought you asked the American people. The Convention of States is first and foremost a movement of grassroots citizens who are fed up with business as usual in DC. We're funded by thousands of people, patriots every single day, who have committed their lives, fortune, and sacred honor into protecting liberty for the future generations. You know, just don't take our word for it. And these are a lot of the individuals that are involved in the Convention of States. And we've got some pretty big people. We got people in Congress. We have, you know, just some, you know, we got people who are very influential in their state as well as DC and you know, Texas public policy. We got the Mississippi policy. Mark Levin, Dr. Kevin Roberts, Kirk Cameron, Governor Ron DeSantis, Ben Shapiro, Jenna Ellis, Vivek Ramsway, Senator Rand Paul, Governor Greg Abbott, of course, and this goes on, you know, and the other individual that's supporting this is as well is the Donald Trump's running mate JD Vance is also supporting this as well. So this is one solution that we have is we get control of our federal government. Basically, we take the control of the government, not the lobbyists. And who are the lobbyists? Well, that's pretty easy. That's the NGOs. And who is at the helm of the NGOs?
Power of the combination of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and big data. So it's a combination of the different technologies which really bring the fundamental change. And finally, I think we have to be prepared for a world where we see a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological dimensions. So it will be a world integrating the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. So it will be a new world. And I'm looking for a minister in 10 years. Probably it will be completely different from what it is now. Just
we have people in the World Economic Forum, the NGOs that are the policymakers for our country. And, and unfortunately, the NGOs are complicit, as well as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their administration staff for committing atrocities, as we saw in Lahaina, as well as California and Texas as well. And you know, the big issue is that they're in a race for, you know, lithium is a new gold rush. And the problem with lithium is that once you dig it up, it doesn't replenish itself. And once that dust gets into the air, It kills everything, makes life inhabitable. And so what we're seeing right now is pretty much everything that's west of the Missouri River is on fire. And we're seeing water rights being taken away. We're seeing a devastation like we've never seen before. And so now it's really the time for the American people to kind of stand up together in one voice and one unity and do something about this, because to be honest with you, I am really concerned about America's future and the way things are going right now. Our future children and grandchildren and generations to come are going to be the one that's going to have to pay the price. They're going to be forced into the 15-minute cities as the NGOs want. They want to cull the human population. So I can't think of anything greater than the American people to actively get up off their couch and start talking to their neighbors about it, sharing this documentary, with everybody, and keeping them informed as possible. And for those investors out there, who are looking into lithium as a source, understand that it's basically it's a resource that you pull up from the ground that's not going to come back. You're just going to leave craters. Unfortunately, it's very toxic and it's devastating. Just like we saw in the UK, where a lithium battery factory caught on fire, and it just left a pyroclastic cloud. That's just going to kill everything within the radius that's around it. It's going to affect a lot of lives in such a negative way. And in the end, it's all about their greed and not about what's sustainability. And we know that HARP, we know that cloud seeding engineering, that's the reason why we have global warming. Because if you think of it in terms of global warming as a natural thing, but unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of unusual weather activities, and that's because of a lot of the things that are taking place that's been done by mankind. We're essentially leading ourselves to our own destruction. I don't want to say me, but as a human race, we've got ill-informed investors, we've got ill-informed people who are making a lot of the policy decisions that are leading us to our doom. And this is a growing concern right now, because United States is going to, half of the country is going to be, essentially it's going to be uninhabitable, because there's going to be so much mining going on for all of these resources, and it's just going to leave the land barren. To be the next greatest catastrophe that we have ever seen. compared to the Dust Bowl, this is going to be worse than the Dust Bowl. This is going to last for generations to come. You think in terms of a nuclear warfare types of scenario, this is going to leave a wasteland, everything west of the Missouri River and everything east of the Missouri River, as far as, Iowa all the way over, it's going to be a little bit more sustainable. But the Midwest and the West is going to be heavily impacted. And unfortunately, right now, with all the silver that's spraying in the air, we're seeing a lot of people are coming to me anyway, reporting that their gardens are not doing very well. They're not producing food like they used to. Not all the ones that have their gardens inside of a greenhouse, they're doing very well. And that's because there's a lot, they're in a more controlled environment where there's almost little to no silver that's contaminating the soil or the plants themselves. It's not oxidizing it. Everything that's out in the open is being oxidizes, and we're seeing also too people in general that are being exposed to this. It's causing oxidation, it's causing stress, and causing health concerns. And there's been a lot of reports coming out about people having lesions on their skins, and trying to equate where those lesions are coming from. It's not a usual thing. And doctors can't explain it, but just based off of what we've done, some soil sampling tests, soil sample testing that we've done from down in Texas, we found high concentrations of aluminum, far beyond what is to be the acceptable level for humans to be around. And this is a really concerning time right now. And so this is something I want everybody to think about is the next step. Petition your state governments to maybe look into this documentary, and and for everybody to that's watching this to make up their own mind, their own conclusion, and that's where we're going to kind of leave it with you guys. And I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you guys for watching this. And don't be afraid to share this on social media and get this word out and show everybody all the efforts that I've put into this, as well as those who have come alongside of me as well, piecing all this evidence together. And hopefully we can bring this awareness to people and understanding of what's going on around us, while they have kept us distracted with entertainment, while all these other things are going on. I will say this, when I was in Texas and talking to the ranchers down there, my heart was really broken for them. There were these moments that I just wish I had millions of dollars. I could just help them with the money, but I can't. And I've done myself and Melissa Frizel, Joshua James, and Ryan Zink have gone to great lengths to raise the money, purchase the products, load up the trailers. But I also want to give a shout out to Smyre High School Ag Department. The students were very wonderful. They volunteer their time to help us unload everything out of the trailer and organize it, and then put everything back. So when we go to the drop-off sites, then we can just drop them off. I also want to give a big shout out to the owners at the bait shop in Fritz, Texas, who stepped up to rose to the challenge to host the bait shop, to bring all the resources there for a lot of the wonderful folks that needed the resources, and the volunteers that come to collect the resources and take them to the ranchers. We've heard a lot of tragedies. We've seen a lot of tragedies down there. We've seen a lot of wonderful people, the Christian community that's come together in Canadian Texas, that were, basically at the helm of trying to help make sure that everybody got what they needed. They, got folks to go out there and to help with the cleanup afterwards. The county for, dispensing their resources to be able to go and collect, all the damaged, parts of their houses, the cars that were damaged. And just want to give a big shout out to a Thought Criminal, aka Christy, aka Thought Criminal. She was very implemental as part of my partner, my colleague who was with me down in Texas as well. She was with me when we went to the different locations to do their investigations, whether it's the measuring, whether it's documenting or recording. And I also want to give a big shout out and thank you to an FBI agent who felt compulsed, felt the need to follow us around. I just want to say thank you for, just kind of being there for us, just following us around. And I don't know if it's for our safety or not, but, sarcastic being aside, I just, I can't say enough about this whole endeavor, this whole project that's been very, very undertaking. It's been very expensive. And a lot of people have stepped up, to be a very large part of this. We want to thank our supporters out there like you who are watching this and sharing this information, because it's only when we come together as we the people share this information, and we'll leave this up to everybody to decide. This is, a judgment call that you have to make as an American citizen, to decide what do you think about this documentary and the pieces that we put together, and think about, some solutions along the way. What can we do? But I think at the end of the day, if we are not actively participating in what's going on and paying attention to the things around us, and paying attention to our neighbors and helping our neighbors out, we're just one step away from losing this entire country. World right now, and this is something that I wanted to bring to your attention. But anyway, with that, we're going to leave a little final conclusion for this. But in the meantime, God bless America, and God bless you.
Chains on the power pole, secrets buried in a darkened hole, lies unravel like a worn out soul, empires fall and losing control. Eyes and shadows, they watch the scene, whispers carry through a tear-streaked screen. Truth ain't pretty, truth ain't clean, cracking walls of the big machine. End of the deep state empire, fire burning, hearts on fire, voice rising higher into the deep state empire. Broken promises lights, no stars in sight. Dogs bark and folks start to fight. Whispers about secrets from the light. Shadows fall, the truth taking flight. Big brother's eyes on every move. Control the minds, we ain't got no proof. 10 full hats call us fools. Caged in lies, breaking all the rules. Hell, it shows was right, they said. Conspiracies alive, not dead. Voices loud inside our head. Searching for truth in the shade of red. Alex Jones was right, they said. Conspiracies alive, not dead. Voices loud inside our head. Searching for truth in the shade of red. Fear grips tight round every bend, wondering when madness will end. Fighting back the lies they send. On this rough road we'll defend. Dusty roads and sirens wail. Men in suits corrupt and frail. Truth seekers hitting the trail. Find your reason we're all else failed. Alex Jones was right, they said. Conspiracies alive, not dead. Voices loud inside our head. Searching for truth in the shade of red. Dusty roads and sirens wail. Men in suits corrupt and frail. Truth seekers hitting the trail. Finding reason where all else failed. Alex Jones was right, they said. Conspiracies alive, not dead. Voices loud inside our head. Searching for truth in the shade of red. From the shade of red. In the shade of red. Dusty roads, rebellion spark. Fire burning neath the ark. Voices screaming, let us free. Chains of power you don't see. Every corner rise and shout. Tired of doubt, we knock you out. Hammer falls on rotten crest. Time to put this farce to rest. Convention of states gonna rise. No more web of dirty lies. Gather folks from near and far. Rewrite dreams under the stars. Raise your glass to freedom's kin. Nation's heartbeat thundering in. From the plains to mountain high. Echoes loud across the sky. Convention of states gonna rise. No more web of dirty lies. Gather folks from near and far. Rewrite dreams under the stars. Here's your glass to freedom's kin. Nation's heartbeat thundering in. From the plains to mountain high. Echoes loud across the sky. Convention of states gonna rise. No more web of dirty lies. Gather folks from near and far. Rewrite dreams under the stars. In the shadows whisper loud. Tattered flags make us proud. Unity in full display. Leading us to brighter day. Town, charlatan grin. Promises of gold where gold ain't been. Selling empty dreams on a dusty track. Snake oil politician words like a train wreck. Dollar bills in pockets while the people starve. Big talker in a suit made from smoky char. Lies thicker than mud on this broken road. Snake oil politician tales getting old. Raising hands to the sky, pure deception. Feeding the folks, lies their only reception. Honey words spread like wildfire. Crime, snake oil politician burning our time. Crowds gather around, listening with hope. Believing in the vision hung by the rope. Smiling wide like a wolf in a man's skin, snake or politician, burden like a train wreck. Empty promises on signs of rust, and you we never trust. Your silver tongue cuts like a knife, snake or politician playing with our life. Turns to dust overnight. Fairy tales crumbled under moonlight. Whispers of truth hidden in the shadow. Snake or politician rolls the gallows.